So now we're actually live on the air and on YouTube, which is a little bit crazy.
I saw the live icon is up.
Yeah, so basically for whomever's on our YouTube channel right now, they'll actually be seeing this being broadcast right now, and for anyone who joins, they can also be part of the broadcast. So this is our first Hangout with Sentri, which is really exciting, and what we really wanted to do here was to give everyone an opportunity to take a look behind the scenes of what it actually takes to build a hardware startup, and especially one that was launched on Kickstarter. And the reason why we're doing this is because we've always kind of believed that like the best products are the ones that are built with consumers, which is why we started on Kickstarter. And we've been able to also get some really great questions from the community, and we thought instead of just answering it in updates and in comments, it would make sense to have a conversation about it. So today we have Rical Hsieh, who's our engineering lead extraordinaire and co-founder at Sentri, who will be giving us a brief overview of the hardware process as well as answering questions that have come in from our community prior to this Hangout. So, do you want to take it away, Rico?
Yeah, yes. Oh, I think we just have a participant just online, right?
Hi, yeah, say hello.
Hello.
Hey, Lilium, I don't know if your mic is working, but welcome. We're actually just getting started, and so here you have actually introductions. So my name is Wendy. I'm based out of San Francisco and oversee marketing for Sentri. And then you also have Yan Tan, who's our co-founder and CEO of Fearless Leader. Rical Hsieh, who leads our engineering and hardware efforts, and Ray Hsieh, who's our product lead out of our Type A office. And so we're actually just getting started, and Rico will be giving us kind of a brief overview of the hardware development process to date.
Yeah, right. So as everybody knows, just right after the Kickstarter campaign last year, and we take several months, we go visit many chip vendors and component vendors, also the tooling molding factories, both in Taipei, Taiwan, and Shenzhen in China. And we broadly surveyed about many potential replacements to what we had in Sentri during that time, and in order to seek for a better quality and for better performance in Sentri. And we found many sensors vendors who can not only provide us the sensors with good quality, but also they can also help us in providing the testing chamber about the Sentri testing in the gas chamber about the humidity and air quality and temperature as well. So the progress moved so quickly, and these partners worked with us closely for all the fine-tuning about the Sentri itself. So I wouldn't lie to you, but indeed we met a lot of challenges, including the sensitivity issues and stability issue, and also the performance issues. However, our ODM are so supportive, and all our component vendors are also supportive, so they help us to solve all these issues and we overcome each of them in a very short time period. And in the November of 2014, during the functionality test, we faced the challenge of the PIR motion sensor. So as you may recall, in the update in last year, November, we said about we faced the challenge about the PIR motion sensor. And when putting the sensor behind the screen, the range of the sensitivity is limited because of the surface reflection. So we broadly survey about the sensors we can use, and also ask about the help from the vendors directly. And with their help, we tune our design a little bit, and finally we find a very small but longer detecting distance sensor to replace the existing one. So that's what happened in November last year. And in December, we made a decision to include a touch screen, that's a very huge change here, because in the original design we didn't anticipate that we will have the touch screen there. So the mechanical design is already done. So we need to tweak it a little bit to include the touch module into the Sentri without change a lot of physical design over there. So it's also a big decision that we are not provided as a next generation, but we also decide to deliver it to our bakers from Kickstarter. So to achieve this, we quickly discuss with our ODM and rearrange all the process, because we need to stop all the tooling process over there. We don't. We need to redesign all the mechanical design to put the touch module inside of the Sentri. So that's what happened in December last year. And this June, we received the modified EVT sample with touch screen. It's a little bit larger, but thinner. So we succeeded in putting the touch screen into Sentri without changing too many designs in the looking. So that's quite everything so far, and we are in February right now. So we are trying to apply all the functionality tests and also the performance tests on the units we received. So that's quite everything so far, and we are on the progress. And since we try to squeeze all the process into all the journey, but I'd like to say we are still on the track, and we are still looking for deliver all the units to all the bakers in mid of this year. So that's quite everything from the hardware side.
Oh, that's great. Actually, that covers a few of the questions that I think William actually brought up as well, in terms of kind of like the manufacturing timeline. Do you want to touch a little bit about kind of like the EVT iteration process and what that involves in terms of like going from EVT1 to EVT2 and how it actually ends up being production unit ready?
Yeah, right. So as we know, all the product development process will move one step to another. So in the EVT, we build a very squeezed PCB to put all the components inside on the PCB board. Then we will do the functionality test to all components over there to see if they work well and they are so connected to each other. And the software layer can read the actual value from the sensor directly. So the EVT board is just like the one on my hand like this. So you can see that we put all the components on it, and on the back side is our main CPU over there and all the memory chip here, and that's all our input-output connector over here. So during the EVT, basically what we do is try to evaluate all the functions if they work well, and yeah, because the work will not be done in one time. So during the EVT, we will find a lot of issues. So we need to solve it one by one. And after that, we will come out another design, then so-called EVT2. And in EVT2, a lot of hardware issues should be already be solved, and we will test again for all the performance and for all the stability. And software RD will come align together with us to test all the functions to see if we can run actually the Sentri app on Sentri. So that's what will be go in EVT1 and EVT2.
Okay, great. So I think that touches on kind of like the testing plan, and what's that timeline looking like? Like, so we have the EVT1 unit now. Can you talk a little bit about like timeline for EVT2?
Yeah, we are in the middle of the testing, and several issues are already identified, and the ODM is helping us to modify the WE layout and also the firmware level modification. And we are going to have our EVT2 sample in March, And right after that, we will kick off the tooling process to make our mold. And after the mold, we will have our housing by molding. And by that, we will have our DVT sample in about April. And after that, we will kick off the mass production process. So the mass production process will be proceed in May this year.
Okay, that sounds great. And then do we know kind of like what type of materials we'll be using for the case?
Yeah, so like you can see on the screen, that's currently the housing we have right now. And for the rear case and also the stand, we will use the ABS plastic for the material. And for the mainframe, because the mainframe will hold all the major components of Sentri, so it needs to be a little bit stronger than the rear case. So we will have a combination of ABS plastic with the PC polycarbonate. Yeah, polycarbonate together to make it a little bit stronger than the rear case, so that the mainframe will hold all the components together without breaking and the damage.
That sounds great. I'm excited to get one of these here in San Francisco as well. And on that note, can you talk about a little bit, because we've done a little bit of customer testing with like prior versions, but like when will the first units for customer testing be available with the touch panel?
Yeah, currently we have already selected several beta users who are close with us, so that we will send them several EBT2 versions for them to test with. So on the EBT2, they will help us to identify several issues and also the usability test. We will send our app and Sentri to them, and they will help us to check all the reading of the sensor. Is that correct? And if the sensor respond well, and also the behavior of the Sentri is like what they are anticipating.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like just listening to this can tell that there's a lot of moving pieces when it comes to hardware, and you're doing a lot of different things at one time. And so I think one of the questions that also came in was about kind of like certification and testing to make sure that it met certain like regulations. Can you talk a little bit about that process and how you're thinking about it?
Yeah, certainly. As you know, like we already include a lot of RF components in Sentri, like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So for sure, Sentri will be past the FCC certification for sure, in order to ship the Sentri into US and for other country. And our adapter who will help to exchange the AC power into the DC to Sentri as the power supply. The adapter itself will be CE certified. And for Sentri itself, we will run the UL pre-certification on Sentri, and Sentri is, of course, is designed for UL certification, but we haven't decided which certification to go with, like UL, CE, or ETL. For that part, we need to collect all the response from our channel to see what they need, and we will then decide which certification to go with.
That makes a lot of sense. And then I think that like now that we've added touchscreen, I think also in the EBT version that you've held up there, it's a little bit like slightly different from like what we had on Kickstarter, but it actually looks a lot sleeker. So is the size I think just changed a little bit, right? Can you give us the final dimensions on that?
Yeah, the original design, the dimension is 9.4 times 9.4, and in the depth is 1.5 inches. And after we include a touch module inside of the Sentri, and the Sentri become a little bit larger because of the bold of the touch screen. So it becomes 9.8 times 9.8 inches, but we succeed in making Sentri tinier to 1.15 inches. So it's actually looks like more sexy right now.
Yeah, no, it looks like a really sleek product. So I'm sure everyone will be excited about that. And we also had a few questions that kind of came in more on the product side that perhaps Ray can help answer as well. We'll also be doing more of these Hangouts going forward, just to give everyone an opportunity to actually hear directly from us as well in terms of what the progress is like and what the process looks like as well. So for Ray's end, some of the questions that came in kind of talked about interoperability, which I think is asked that a lot of our backers and earliest customers have in terms of how to work with third parties. So will there be support for sensors for things like Windows from third parties? And
So
what does that process look like?
From third party, we are actually we actually have the supporting plan in the next way. So currently, the software work that we put the resource on is focused on what we promise our backers on Kickstarter. So we currently full speed developing the like interop with like Nest, like BBQ, like Wemo, and Lucky Charm. So after we've done that part, we will start design the framework for for the third-party developer to access our platform. So in terms of they can access the sensor information from the that they could get from Sentri, and they could also get some stat analysis data that how the user use their a smart device, and also they can also get the customization of the theme on the Sentri. So this is currently the plan, and I think we will have more update in the next Hangout session for more firm information on how the framework looks like.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I mean, like, so we're shipping to everyone with integration with Nest Thermostat, Belkin Wemo Smart Switch, Philips Hue Smart Light, and the Smart Lock Lockatron, which I think covers a really good range of products that are already out there. And so that's kind of always been our philosophy, is to be able to provide the greatest benefit as simply as possible for kind of like a user at the end of the day. And so that's kind of where we're getting started. And under Ray's kind of direction and leadership, we're going to also make that easy for third parties to work with us too.
That's great.
And I think another kind of like question that a lot of people have had is, what's the longevity of the Sentri hardware? So I buy this hardware device today, like, is the firmware updatable? Like, how is that update process going to look like? Do I have to plug in a USB stick, or is it going to be all that can be done over the air? So I guess Rico or Ray can take that.
Yeah, right. For the firmware update, because we are not only shipping Sentri as it is, when you have it. So if any software update on the Sentri itself, we will deliver it to all the Sentri on Earth for sure. And the way we do that is like a firmware over the air. So when any update just available to you, you will see a notification on your smartphone. Then you can apply the update. Then Sentri will update itself by only a simple click on your smartphone. So it's very easy.
That's great. So you don't have to plug in any extra components to it. And I think having actually the Ethernet port is going to help a lot with that too.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, great. Oh, and also, sorry, I missed one final question about kind of like packaging. So, I mean, I'm sure that's something, I know that's something that like actually we're doing a lot of kind of like testing, as well as putting a lot of attention to the design of the packaging too. But can you talk a little bit about the process of it and some of the considerations that you take into consideration when you're planning something like this?
Yeah, actually, we have two kind of a plan of all the testing here. So we will do all the verification during the production line. So when the Sentri is built, we will monitoring every stage of the building process to see if the Sentri is damaged during the whole process. And after that, when Sentry just built, we will put it into a box. So the box itself will be also tested to ensure that the package will survive during all the transportation and all the shipping, not only through the air, but maybe in a container over the sea. So we set a condition like minus 20 Celsius degree to 70 Celsius degree. So it's quite a lot of it's quite a broad range of the sustainable environment over there. So we will make sure that package when it is delivered on your hand, you will receive a very well packaged Sentry, and when you take it out, it will still working over there.
Oh wow! So is that kind of industry standard to have such a large range from negative 20 degrees Celsius to 70 degrees Celsius?
Yeah, because you don't know what will happen when your product was in a container. What will be happening outside there? Because it could be on a boat, and the container will directly exposure to the sun. So the temperature inside the container will be, for sure, it will be go to a very high temperature over there, and also the humidity for sure.
Right. And so kind of like along those lines, like what about like shelf life testing? Is there a shelf life in terms of how long Sentry can sit in a container? Or
yeah, we said the process like the Sentry itself should be self-sustained for at least 2 weeks inside of the container. In that kind of the condition. So I believe the Sentry will survive all the process during the shipping.
Right. That's great. Really interesting. William, actually, since you're on the line right now, I just wanted to pause here for a second and see if you had any questions that you wanted to jump in with or anything you wanted to add. I know a lot of these questions are thanks to you. So just wanted to give you a chance to actually ask any questions or make any comments directly.
Okay, could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I think that you clarified a lot of the questions I had, so thank you for that. And I feel like you really are on top of the technical issues, so I feel good about it. Yeah. So just a question about the timeline. You mentioned that you're expecting to start mass production in May, right?
Right.
Okay. So when do you expect to deliver the first unit? I guess that the production will take some time, and so.
Yeah, as you may know, the production is like an ongoing process. So when a mass production is launched, we will receive maybe the first batch as 100 units, and the next batch another 100 units. So every time we receive a batch, we will send it directly to the bakers one by one. So the expectation of the first the first shipping unit should be the end of the May or the early June this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then related to the technical challenges you face and the solutions, do you feel that there is something that still worries you about, those technical issues? Is there something that you feel that you need to do more testing or more changes? Or?
Yeah, good question over there. So you are asking that if there are still several issues we are not be able to find out the solution or what, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right now, I would say the touch screen will be something new to us because we just received the first testing units in January. But fortunately, the touch module we are using is already a finished product. The vendor shipped that product to a lot of other companies for them to use in their product already. So right now we have some compatibility issue right now, but I think it's not a very big issue since the product is on live already for one years. So I think we can overcome them, and we will have a very good EBT2 sample in March. I would say that would be the biggest challenge right now. All the others, I think, all under control.
Okay, no, that's good to hear. And just another quick question: have you heard any challenges from the suppliers? You know, I know I have worked in product developments before, and I know that sometimes as designers we develop something, we think that it will work, and the suppliers tell us that it will work, but then when they start doing prototypes, they come back with some design for manufacturing issues. And so, you know, are there any like major challenges from the supplier's point of view, or they feel good about the design at this point?
Yes, indeed, you are asking a very good question. You know, during the design process, we invited all the component vendor together with us, and it's like the June last year. So when we presented our first unit to them, they help us to identify a lot of issues that they think that don't work, and that could be work, and that could be worse. So you know, during that time, they help us a lot directly in the design phase to revise all the mechanical issue and all the placement on the PCB to avoid the following issue could be pop up. So I would say we are lucky to have a lot of support directly from the vendor itself. So during the EBT1, regarding all the performance issue and all the issue we found out, we are not finding any issues that point out by the vendors directly, because they already help us to solve them before that. You know.
Okay, that's great. That's good.
I think one thing that's been really helpful for us is that we have Rico on the ground, who's basically been living like out of the ODM and being able to kind of like talk on a very consistent basis with our suppliers to kind of mitigate a lot of the challenges that I think a lot of hardware startups here in the U.S. face as they're going through this process. So thank you, Rico, for that. All right. William, do you have any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much for joining. We'll actually be sharing this as well. It'll be like a YouTube video, and we'll be sharing this with backers as well. And this is something that I hope this is helpful for you too, William. And we hope to be doing this on a more regular basis. So the next Hangout, we'll actually have Ray talk a little bit more about the product, the overall product itself, and dive a little bit more into that SDK component that will allow third parties to interoperate with Sentri going forward. So hopefully this is a format that you enjoyed, and we definitely would love to kind of like continue having these type of conversations. And thanks again for your great questions. So.
No, you're welcome. I really like this type of communication and get us involved on this, and I'm feeling part of this, so it's good. It's great to be involved. So thank you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and feel free to like ping us at any time with any thoughts or questions. So.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Rico and Ray, also for your time over in Taipei. And so we'll be sharing this on YouTube, and look forward to chatting with you guys next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.